Welcome to Fated, a podcast brought to you by Magella and Carly, two romantically obsessed readers who believe that great books must include declarations of undying love and deep thrusts of desire. Diving into the spicy, smutty fantasy genre, we are here for both the rattling of stars and headboards, and our podcast starts with the worlds of SJM, but delves into other realms. Did we mention that washboard abs and wands of all kinds are welcome in this inclusive and magically charged space? No topic is off limits, and no one is forced to have only one favourite heroine. Welcome to Fated, where we are unabashedly and wholeheartedly hot and heavy for spicy fantasy fiction. It's time to sit down and smut up. Warning, spoilers ahead. Hi, welcome to Fated. My name's Magella.
And my name's Carly, and this episode we are doing our deep dive / debrief into Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, which is the third book in the Throne of Glass series, depending on where you read The Assassin's Blade. We have previously recorded episodes on The Assassin's Blade and Throne of Glass, so if you need to go back and have a listen to them to refresh, please do, but this is going to be a massive spoiler alert. These episodes, we talk about it all. So if you haven't read Crown of Midnight, please switch off, go read it, come back. We'd love to reconnect once you have devoured this great story, the next installment. So it's been a while since you've read it, Magella, but do you want to dive in? Where do we meet?
It has been a while because I think that because I've read all of them, when I reread, I don't know how often I don't think I've actually ever grabbed this book for a reread, and I think there's a few reasons for that. One is I think that there is a love story further along that I'm more into, and two, this one is a lot of setting the chess pieces in play. That's what I found was that
Yep.
Selena's she's come out of all this terrible, torturous time and Sam's death and Dovia. She's now the challenge to become the King's champion, at the end of last book. And now she's the King's champion, which she hates that she's doing this, but she is still focused on freedom over anything else. So her purpose is to basically become anonymous, like get out, serve all the time so that she can become like an unknown person and just go back home.
Yeah.
And so, her whole thing is blinkers on. I'm just going to be the King's champion and do his work, get paid and get out. But she is trying to do it in her way. So she's not actually killing the targets that he's giving her. She's secretly getting them out of Aelin and bringing in different, corpses' heads that are, decomposed and saying, I couldn't get it here in better condition because it's hot and we've had to travel for 2 weeks or whatever. So that's really, really cool. But there's all these chess pieces that are getting put into place. So she's the King's champion, but she's kind of doing it in a way that, is just serving herself. Nahimi is there telling her about, there's rebellions and there's things she needs to learn about. There's the word marks and the word keys, which she learned will open doors to other realms. So now they have to stop the king getting them. Like Dorian discovers that he's got magic. There's an evil presence in the basement of the castle. She's speaking to Queen Aelin from thousands of years ago. So she's talking to ghostly projections in the tomb underneath the castle. So there's lots of things that don't get resolution because they're big overarching story blocks where they all start to build together to the finale. So I did find that this book was quite heavy in terms of information. Like, this is what's happening. Oh, you haven't heard about this thing? Here it is. Oh, you don't know what those things are. We're going to explain them. Oh, this is a new character and they've got this kind of history. So it wasn't a book where I felt like I was, anticipating the first kiss though Selena and Cale do have their romance. But it definitely hasn't warranted a reread for me. So you have read it more recently.
Yeah.
What stood out for you?
Well, I felt the same. I knew, I guess, because you know that this is book, what did I say, book three of an 8-part series. You know, I know that it's world building. I know that I'm still getting the chess pieces in place. I know that I'm still, learning about the characters and the things that I'm reading. So I know I have that expectation that things I'm reading here are going to set up the story. I think if I was reading this series as it was brought out, or I didn't know that there was going to be so many more books, I would have still enjoyed it, but it would have been like I don't know, it wasn't quite meaty enough on its own as a standalone kind of thing. So yes, I agree with all of that. What did I love? I mean, there was still some really big moments here. So even though it's just the world building and we're still getting to know the characters and we're building up to the rest of the series, still got massive complexity and really big scenes like Nehemia's death. Like that
The
was
murder.
horrific. Murder,
Yeah.
yeah. Mutilation. Like it was absolutely horrific. You've still got the huge scenes like when her and Kale sleep together.
Yes, which is Selena's first time. So it
That's
is
right.
a really big deal because she was saving herself for Sam, her first love, and that didn't work out
Mm-hmm.
the way either of them had envisioned. And then she, I guess had started to come back to life and had a flirtation romance with Dorian. Um, but really, she felt the most connected to Kale,
Yeah. Yeah.
and which is really, kind of it was this up and then it was basically a straight down because then Kale, chose in a way to his loyalty lay with the king and being the captain of the guard. So he didn't tell Selena about the threats against Nehemia. And so Selena basically blames Kale for her death. Like that if she had known, if he had given her a heads up, she might have been able to get back to the palace in time, or she could have given her a warning, or she could have, you know, put more guards on. So um, it was this breaking of this sort of fragile new love, like because it's like he
Yeah.
has sided with her enemy and caused, her friend's death in a way. So it
Yeah.
gets really messy at that point. Like everyone's basically like reactive and broken and, trying to, get revenge from a trauma state.
Yeah. And that when she attacks Kale, she absolutely, loses it, is overcome with feral rage, and she attacks him, and she would have killed him. She would have killed him, but Dorian uses his magic. So screaming at Kale, "You are my enemy." That was heartbreaking because I'm like, he loves you, and
Yeah.
he's in such a tricky position here.
And he is a good
Um,
man. Like
he's
he,
a very good man. And at the end of the book, he sends her away to save her, protect her, get her away from the king in the only way he really can within his power, in a very clever way. Uh, and that, when they're on the dock and she's saying goodbye to him, like there was still some really big scenes in that book to keep me really compelled and engaged. Um, and then the other big one was when she opened the portal to talk to Nehemia, to try to find Nehemia in the afterlife, in the other world. And we see her shapeshift into Fae. So that was exciting because it's interesting as someone who feels very sort of like behind the 8 ball with this series. I knew at some point there was Fae elements, more magical elements, but the first 3 books are very much not set in that realm. And so I
mm,
was like, when, how, what?
when, when
Like,
do the fairies come in?
how is this going to be woven in? Like, yes, we've got the magic sort of system of the word keys and talking to Elena, and but it was really like, when's the Fae stuff going to come in, and what are going to be her powers, and what's she going to look like? And if you've been in Sarah J. Maas's world, they're the things you really excited about. Like, will she have pointy ears, and will she be able to run like the wind? And yeah, what's she going to be able to do? What's she going to be wielding? What are her powers? So that was again a really quite scary scene because there's some really horrific monsters through that portal.
Mm.
And little Fleetfoot, the dog, I was like, the dog can't die.
I know it's like the horse in Neverending Story. It
Yes.
would have broken me. I'd be like, no. Like that dog has healed her. It's following her around like a little like shadow. That dog needs to make it.
Yeah, that was quite interesting. I was like, the dog. And Kale witnessing her shifting because Dorian, is that right? Dorian didn't see it. He was out.
Further up the stairs or something, I think.
Yeah, and she knocked him. I think she knocked him out or something. Someone anyway. He was unconscious at some point. So Kale had seen that. Then there's this sort of there's lots of secrets in this book too, right? Like keeping Dorian's magic a secret, keeping her shape shifting into Fae a secret. The fact that she's pretending to kill the the targets that the king has set. The
Right.
rebellion.
That she can get the bowel of the castle and she's speaking to her ancestors, that she's using, that she understands what word marks and word keys are and that they're all throughout the castle now. So there's lots of things that they don't understand fully. Like they've got bits of the puzzle and they're all trying to put it together. And people are doing it for power and other people are doing it for the right reasons. And
Yeah.
um,
Still, we've got all these interwoven stories that Sarah Mouse just does so beautifully. She just the amount of storylines that weave together so beautifully, and I can see where it's going. The other thing with Crown of Midnight was I could start to feel where this could go and explode into. And I've just finished Air of Fire, and of course, it's now like ramping up. So that's exciting too. That kept me like, yep, let's keep reading. Again, it wasn't hard for me to get through. I still enjoyed it, but it was this sort of like Christmas is coming sense, like anticipation. There's so much coming.
Like a bridge book.
If this is this good, I am beyond excited about what is about to happen.
Yeah. And we had the witches, our first introduction to the witches.
Baba
a really big role. Yeah. Baba Yellowlegs. So there's 3 witch covens. So we've met the Yellowlegs, and there's 2 other covens that you will meet. Or have you met?
Well, in Air of Fire, we meet them.
Yeah.
But again, I was like, oh, this is a new element. And I remember you saying, oh, you're going to love the witches and you're going to love a certain witch. And I'm like, it's just so interesting when someone's ahead of you and you're like, I can't see that. And I'm actually not that into witches. So how am I going to love a witch? But yeah, Baba Yellowlegs was pretty foul. She was pretty rotten. And that scene in her trailer was cool as well with all the mirrors. There's just so much going on. Like I'm even trying to talking about it brings it all back up. Cause like in my head, I'm like, oh, it was an okay world building book, but actually it was so detailed.
Yes. And the other thing that was interesting is she started to drop in, Sarah J. Maas, clues that some people weren't exactly who they thought they were, and not in a disguise way, but just that they were being influenced. Like there was dark magic around Caltaine, and Roland, which is Dorian's cousin, and the Duke, and there's just headaches, and people are hearing voices and flapping wings, and there's this sense of something. There's this sense of evil is pervading, but we don't know how. Like there's this mysterious enemy that is very bad, and we're not sure what it is exactly. Is it just one monster? Is it a whole realm of monsters? Is it something that takes over people's bodies? Is someone manipulating other people? Is it magic? Is it, because that's the other thing is the king got rid of magic when he took over. So lots of the magic folk have been killed, the healers, or the fae's left, kind of thing. So it's actually like very unsafe to have magic. So the fact
Yes.
that Dorian has magic and it's only just surfaced is like, this is essentially puts him
At
as
risk.
an enemy of the state. Like
Yeah.
his father is his now biggest, going to be his biggest threat. And Selena, realizing that she has Fae form, so is at least half Fae, um, again puts her in that hunted category. And also people are they have prejudice about magic now because they've been told all these stories for years and years that magic is dangerous and the magic people did this, and like they were fed lies. And so Kale is very, like, when he sees Selena, he has this reaction of like,
Mm.
I wouldn't call it repulsion, but it is this like almost like
Yeah.
horror that she is something that he is not, and he doesn't understand it, and he's trying to reconcile his love for her and his hatred or fear of magic and magical folk. And it's interesting because like it's mentioned in all of Sarah J Maas's books, but when you're a fae, you have a mate. Generally you're
Mm.
mated, you have a mate. And there's various mentions that you would die for your mate. Like when your mate is in pain, it's the same as if you're experiencing, there's this bond, this thread that's almost feels like a real physical thing between you. And so you could never harm your mate because it would be like harming yourself. And so that's really interesting because when she tried to attack Kale, like instantly, like I knew that their love story probably
Mm.
wasn't going to be the love story, but they did have it. Like he really loved her and she seemed to really love him. And he had lots of interesting redeeming qualities, and he was a complicated, complex character. But when she attacked him, I was like, oh, he's not her person. He's not her mate. It was an instant, like that story has now ended for me. Like I was
Yeah.
like, he's
Yeah.
out. That's not that's not her mate.
Oh,
Like done
come
it.
on. Come on, Magella. There
It
wasn't
was
an element of they were
no,
like, okay.
no. I was like, he has just declared it has been declared. The line
Okay.
is drawn. Moving on. I was like, now where is her mate? Where is her
Yeah,
mate?
and I mean, she's still so young. She's still got lots of time. But we can't also forget the scene with Kale when he was kidnapped by the rebellion people. Archer, what's his name? Archer Finn.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was again reminiscent of what happened to Sam for Selena, like that
Yes.
horrific um, torture that Sam endured. Like she then went straight back into that like PTSD, like, oh my God, this is going to happen again to
Yes.
Kale, to this man that I have lost my virginity to, the man that I love at the moment at this point in time. And so I loved when she just showed up and just like ripped them to shreds. She was just like, this ain't happening again.
Yeah.
And saved his life. So that
Yes.
was another
There's lots
massive scene.
reclaiming of her power in all these different ways, like her
Yes.
heritage, that she can talk to Alina, this ghost, so like you have to be related. So she's reclaiming her family heritage. For a long time
Mm.
and as we find out as the story goes, like she reclaims her name. She
Yeah.
reclaims who she truly is. But in this book, it's like she's trying to pull the pieces of herself back together, like she's reclaiming her heart, like it had been
But she's
broken.
really resistant to that, isn't she? She's really like, no, because for 10 years she has really resisted it. We've got, the little door knocker, Mort, in the tomb.
Mm-hmm. Which
You
is a
know,
really
she,
cute little, I could totally see how you do it in a movie,
I pictured like the labyrinth. I don't know if you remember that movie from when we were small, but
Yeah.
when all the inanimate objects could talk. But his name's Mort, and he tells her, you're now in a position of power and the fate of the world is bound to you. Like, no pressure at
Mm.
all. Eleanor's telling her this. Nehemiah's been saying this. So there's all these people saying to her, and she doesn't fully understand it yet, of course, and we don't as readers, but you are here for something. You are here for something really, really big. And
She doesn't want it though. That's why,
yeah.
like it is that real
He doesn't.
And it has been, and you find out later why, but like ever since like her life changed as a child, she has been like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go down that path. I don't want to become that person. Even though that is my destiny in a way, like her, she
Mm.
is destined because of her family lineage to end up in a certain position or to take a certain path. But at this stage, especially after, her and Sam, they just wanted to run away. They wanted to run away and make a life and be
Yeah.
quiet. Same with
Yeah.
Kale. Like she pictured herself, like, leaving with him and having children and just having a quiet life. And, she could see that. And he would like that too. Like, I think there was this moment of that would have been an alternative path that at that time really appealed to her because the alternative was astronomically hard.
Mm.
Like it would require everything of her, and she may not survive, and she would have to give her heart and her soul and probably her body in the end to, you know, get back to Terrasen and her land and right
Yeah.
the wrongs of the world and undo this evil. And you can totally understand it. Like, why would you
Yeah.
voluntarily? And that's what when she goes to see Baba Yellowlegs, and she's a very powerful oracle, a psychic, a future predictor, and she tells her things, but
Mm.
she tells them in code, in hidden messages. And she
Yeah.
said when it happens, or you'll know, and you do know when it happens. You know, it.
Yeah.
She
And
is.
she says, like, hide from fate all you like, Baba Yellowlegs said as they turned away, but it shall soon find you. Hide from fate all you like, but it shall soon find you. And there is this sense for me, it was like she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to go back there. She wants to disappear and be free. But it's just a character trait. We now know 3 books in, we know that she won't let her people suffer. She doesn't want, like, I think it was in this book where the king ordered the death of a few thousand of the slaves. I think so. In one of the camps. And she was horrified, as was Dorian, as was Kale, like horrified. So there's still this character trait of compassion and wanting to, yeah, I really felt in this book we started to see that. And I was like, I think she's definitely gonna claim this. She's gonna go there at some point. I don't know how, but she's gonna go there and she's going to do what she was destined to do, what she was born to do. Um, mm,
The other thing that I feel like after rereading everything, is not. I don't think at the time I realized how impressive it was, but to be able to kill like a head of a witch's coven. So Baba Legs, Yellow Legs is the head of one of the covens. So she is the most powerful witch of that coven. She is the most cunning, the strongest, the meanest, the whatever that her skill is. Like they are not easy to kill, as evidenced in later forays into the witch kingdoms. But I feel like in this, it just made it seem like Selena was like, I have to kill this witch because she now knows about Dorian, because Dorian had gone to see, and she just had this sense. Selena has this intuitive gut sense that pops up every so often that is, she just knows that it's important. She knows to listen to it. She knows to connect with that person, to follow that thing, to gift that thing away. It's this very strong guidance that comes from either her ancestors or the gods. Because in this, like Throne of Glass, in this series, there are gods that they refer to, which become more and more sort of, they have a bigger hand and they're connected to more characters the further you go throughout the series. So Aelin, Selena has a connection, and so it's interesting because I don't know if it's that God that's
mm,
guiding this gut instinct and kind of, because that's what happens with other characters where the God, they say things like, I felt like the God touched me on my shoulder and pushed me in that direction, or I got this urging to go faster because there was danger at my back, but there was nothing that I could see. But
mm,
Selena had this sense that she's like, this this witch is going to be a threat, is going to hurt my friend Dorian, because now they become like brother and sister. Like it's this
Yeah.
very strong
Yeah.
bond. And so she just decimates this witch. Like it doesn't. I remember in All the Mirrors, it was like such a cool fight to read, but it didn't ever seem like she was in danger of not surviving.
Yeah.
Like, but like after rereading, or after other knowing more about the witches, like this fight is really incredible. It shows just how skilled she is, how strong she is, how ruthless a killer she is when she is in protection mode, when she's like, I will protect this person, this place, these people.
Yeah.
It's like she gets this like otherworldly power, which she may very well do. But that fight in particular, I think, just on reflection now, I'm like, wow, that is
Yeah.
a really big deal that she killed that witch.
Yeah. After reading Air of Fire, I'm like, oh, these witches, there's so much more. I just love the continual unfurling of these worlds as we journey through the series. It's so cool. I'm so excited for the next one.
That's right. I think there is this really big push as well. When you meet them, you'll know, but there is a call out by Throne of Glass lovers. They're like, this particular character needs their own story
Yeah,
arc,
yeah,
their own book, a POV. We need to know, what happened in her childhood, why she was raised that way, how she became, like, because like
how
she's
fun.
equal to Aelin in people's minds. Like there's a real
Yeah.
like,
How fun as an author to know you've got those options. You've created such incredible characters that you've got sort of endless book options moving forward that people will buy and devour. That's awesome.
yes, because like Hale got his own book,
Yeah.
which
So Tower of Dawn.
coming up to, yeah.
Yeah.
And I just feel like Dorian should get his own book, because it's such a, like, he's gone through so much, and he has such power. Like the vastness of his magic is, I think he's one of the most powerful magic wielders in this realm.
I'm excited to learn more about him. To me, he's still, when I was in this book, I was like, yeah, he's still a meh character.
Yeah.
Air of Fire, I started to see a little bit, okay, where could that go? That could be quite incredible. So, yes. So
I
much
feel
fun.
a little bit like he feels a little bit like, not like Tamlin, but as in like, I feel like he feels like he's an important character in so many ways, but he doesn't get the time to be fleshed out and have his story arc. I'm not even going to say redemption arc, because like Tamlin did go bad, whereas Dorian is more that he hasn't. We don't. He's such an interesting character because he's there, and you want him to be there, and he has this incredible bond with Aelin, and he's important in the story, but you don't get to know enough. I think. Like I'm just like,
Yeah.
but like what happened, and where is he going to go?
Grappling with so much. He's grappling with so much. You can see that there's absolutely an opportunity to go and do a whole deep dive into him. And I don't know. I don't know if she's talked about more books in that series, but she's definitely got the option.
She hasn't spoken explicitly about Throne of Glass extras, like additional books. So we know that there's 2 more Akatars coming, and everyone's guesses are that it's an Elaine book for sure. And then the last book will be like a more Eris tying up of things, crossing of new plot points,
Okay.
with other things. God, I don't know how to say that without
Don't spoil anything.
nothing, no spoilers. But so, because as well, like Moore she's in the inner circle, but she's the truth teller, and I've never seen her use that. Like that power that she has. Like, what does that even mean? Like, she can sense lies. If she tells the truth, does she gain something? Like, she becomes more, and there's that whole, she was stabbed and abandoned by Eris, and people are like, Eris knew that she was gay, so didn't it, like, if he touched her, then he would have to claim her. And all these kind of things. So, but I do feel like we know that she's mentioned Sarah J. Maas in the third book of Crescent City that things will start to collide.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and stuff. So,
Oh,
and the Crescent City is meant to be a standalone 3. That's what she said. It's 3
okay.
books.
Okay.
But then I feel like that would leave the Throne of Glass series needing needing an additional book or two. I mean, people are like, please don't open that door again. Like,
No.
leave it alone. Like, because it is
Oh.
incredible. But it is also like the same way I guess Harry Potter ended, in that it ended in a way that you could make peace with.
Yeah.
However, like
Yes.
good or bad or whatever, you weren't like, that made no sense. That was shit. That was,
Yes.
it was like, I can live with this ending,
Yeah.
but I still want to know more. It's
Yeah.
not that it's unended. It's just that
That's so
it
cool.
feels like, so the war ended or whatever ended. Like in Harry Potter, it was Voldemort. You know the whole thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What if you do read? And I've just had the
I'm
biggest
never gonna
spoiler.
read it. Go.
Yeah. Voldemort died, was killed. So it ended, and then we get
Felt.
a little bit of an epilogue of like, them 20 years later, married, kids, that kind of stuff. But it was literally just like a little nod to this has ended, and here's something that kind of will soothe the hurt, um, in a way, like a little sort of balm. And I feel like she hasn't done that in Kingdom of Ash. It just ends when it ends in the
Okay.
in the time. And I feel like you could easily just be like, we'll just add 2 more books there,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
like
Okay.
it hasn't
Put that out there.
jumped. It hasn't,
Put that out there into the
it
world.
can be like, what about a Dorian book? What about
Oh, I'm sure
um,
it's on her radar, but she's probably pretty busy writing ACOTAR books and Crescent City books. Okay, we have to wrap up, my love. So, what were your, like, any other favorite scenes or moments for you? Any other pivotal parts of this book um, that we haven't talked about? I mean,
um, the only other little thing that I think was really a little sign, and it connects up later, which is why I remember it, is that Selena always shows, even if she dislikes a person, but if that person is not inherently bad, I feel like she can always find a way to be merciful or kind. And I just
mhm.
remember that little moment where Coltane was put in the dungeon and she gave her a cloak because it was cold.
Yes, yes,
It was this little, she hadn't been nice to her at all. She viewed Selena as a threat. She wanted to get to Dorian. Selena was an obstacle in the way. She was
yeah.
like, who's this person, blah, blah, blah. And then, I think she had backstabbed her and done something as well. And then she was like, Selena still showed, she was like, I have been in dungeons. I have been in Andovi. I know what it's like to be cold, imprisoned. Something's wrong with Coltane. She's got headaches. She looks sick. She's hearing
Yeah,
voices. Like,
yeah.
she's cold. They're treating her badly. She's still a human.
Well,
Take my cloak.
Selena realizes that there's a connection with the magic, and she realizes that Kaltain's bloodline has had magic in it. So that's when her heart's like, oh, the king. I think the king's using them. I think the king is using them in some way. So she was, yes, she poisoned her and was evil and did some shitty stuff, but I think, yeah, at that point in this story, Selena's realizing that the king has some kind of power, and he's definitely controlling Roland and Keltane. But you're right, that compassion is there, and that's, I think, why we want her to go back and claim her title and fix the world. Fix the
Yeah.
world. So we leave this story with Selena tells Kale that her great grandmother was Fae. And then when magic disappeared, she lost the ability to shift, but that somewhere in another realm she could shift. And so that's when Kale, again, these love stories, right? Like this sacrifice, like he realizes that it's too dangerous for her to be in the glass castle at Adelan. And So he actually makes a bargain that he'll go back to his homeland of Aniel.
where he hates with his father, who sounds like a terrible, cold,
Yes.
cruel man, just like unnecessarily, like just like he
Yes.
just has chosen to be this bitter,
Yes.
awful man.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she still loves him even though she wanted to kill him. So she gives him the eye of Alina to protect him, which is a big deal because that is a very powerful, I guess, magical symbol that she has used to get into places and understand things. And then she drops a little clue about when she was born so that Kale works out who she actually is, which we find out at the very end that Selena is actually Aelin, the long
Yes.
lost queen of Terrasen, which is like literally. I feel like this book was one of the ones where I was like, I literally put it down and picked up the next one like straight away. I was like,
Yeah.
then what happens? Oh my
Yeah.
god!
Yeah. There's like two books just running into each other. So, and the thing is, she's told Kale all this stuff, which was like, wow, she hasn't kept that a secret. So he now knows all of this. And so in the next book, it's like, okay, well, what's he going to do with that information? And will they ever meet again? Like there's so much left in the air as
Yeah.
she sails off to Wendelin to, she's meant to go to kill the royal family. Um, yeah, I feel like Sarah really left the end of that book in a great spot to make you run to Air of Fire. I'm so glad
Yeah.
it was already published in there for me on my bookshelf.
Yes, I think like with Sarah J. Maas's book, I don't often feel that real desperate cliffhanger energy. Like I feel like each book is sort of feels quite self-contained. Like there's so much more, but it doesn't. And I really like that because I hate that feeling of like, oh my god, I feel so incomplete.
Yeah,
And unless I get to the next book, I have this itch that cannot be scratched. And I totally get that from like a marketing and a selling books angle that if you have this book where people are literally like, oh my god, the next one. But as a reader, it's so frustrating if I'm starting a series that's not completed. I've
yeah,
really now decided after, like, and I say this, but I will change. But as in, like, there's
yeah,
been a few series where they aren't completed and I have purchased, book one and two, knowing that there's three or four or five, and just the wait between the books I mean, Iron Flame is a great example of like, now
yeah.
we have it six
But I
months or
think what was really cool about it was that in the last few pages, so like page 416 onwards to 418, she's told him that her great grandmother, but he then runs back to the books and he's figuring out the family tree, whilst you as a reader are going, oh my god, that's where it fits in. As Kale counted down the family tree one after one until my great grandmother was Faye, which she told him he had to brace a hand against the desk. No, it couldn't be. And then he reads about Aelin, and he talks about like he let out a strangled cry. How many times had he looked into those eyes? Because it says like Ashryver eyes, the fairest eyes from legends old of brightest blue ringed with gold. How many times had he looked into those eyes? How many times had he seen her avert her gaze? That one bit of proof that she couldn't hide from the king. Selena Sidothian wasn't in league with Aelin Ashryver Galathynius. Selena Sidothian was Aelin, and he sank to his knees. Like
Right.
it's so
Yes. It's an epic fairy tale esque
great ending.
feeling of like, oh my god, the princess is waking up. There's it's like very like it's a savior kind of energy of like this kingdom is overrun with evil, and this is
Yeah, yeah.
someone who can actually save. She comes from this, and like obviously as you progress, you find out more and more about what that lineage means and like how incredible it actually is. Um,
But you can sense that Kale has that moment of like, oh my God, what have I just done as well? Like I want to save her, but I have just literally sent her to the place where she can basically blossom back into who she is and come and kill the kingdom that I protect.
yes, but what is there to protect at this stage? Like I totally
Yeah,
get what you're saying, but as in like,
yeah, yeah. But he has that feeling of like, whoa, shit. Have I just, as the captain of the guard, committed massive, more than treason? Yeah.
Yeah.
Loved it. That ending, great. Those last few pages, great. I love having these conversations with you because it reminds me how much I love the book, because we do just move on and keep going. And so great to go back and relive that. So thank you. That's fun. But that's it. That's all we've got time for today. So
I wrote one little line down.
go. Share a line.
In the book. It goes, "Why are you crying?" "Because," she whispered, her voice shaking, "you remind me of what the world ought to be, what the world can be." So it's her starting to, want to make that world a reality, like that the world can be full of good people, and that the world can be a safe place, and people do the right thing, and people, can live good lives. It's this moment where she's like, I feel like it's that seed that's planted, like, do I actually want to be anonymous and invisible and choose that life for me, or do I actually want to fight for this, like fight for this possibility of everything, know?
Yeah. Love it. Love it. All right, my darling, have a lovely day.
Thanks. We'll talk again after the break. It'll be 2024 when we talk again. I might pop in over the break and do a couple of solo episodes on books that Carly is never going to read.
Unless I read one that I'm just like, holy hell, we need to get on and record this right this second.
On your holiday home. From the beach. We could both do a beach one.
We could do that, or I'll be lazing by a pool. We're house sitting a house in Sydney with a pool.
Oh, yes.
Great. But apart from that, yes, hopefully you enjoy these episodes, and happy reading. Happy reading. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Ciao.
See ya.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope that you felt like you were eavesdropping on a conversation that you have been dying to have with someone to discuss all the tiny details and possible plot twists of the books that you've recently read. Perhaps you don't have someone to chat to after you finish one of those epic books, so please give the show a follow, and we would be honoured to be your book-obsessed friends. But mostly though, we hope it was fun, it gave you a giggle, it made you gasp, or encouraged you to pick up a different author. Please share it with someone who you think would also love it, and drop us a review, letting us know what you loved and what you want to hear from us in the future. We will be back with another episode soon. Happy reading.